to ensure that we are happy, emotional intelligence is important. So what is emotional intelligence? It's very simple. Dream, and that's going to make you happy. So it's a biological mechanism, okay, in order to respond to our environment. Can I tell that, intelligence, you can measure it by giving a mathematical problem. So for every level of maturity, you have different levels of intelligence that is measured. So a class 5 student, so a civil servant should be having the emotional intelligence, which will push towards leadership, developing others, be able to communicate with others, etc. So your emotional intelligence. All right. So it's again an important topic, both from a conceptual point of view as well as its application in civil services. Okay. So these are the topics that we'll be covering today. It's a very simple, small topic. Okay. What is emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? What are the characters of an emotionally intelligent person? Okay. What constitutes emotional intelligence and its characters? Okay. Why is it important? What is the function of emotional intelligence? What makes a person emotionally intelligent, the character, etc. Its relevance to civil services, relevance to a leader, relevance to a work attitude, to improve work attitude, for anything. Why do we need emotional intelligence, and specifically with respect to civil services, leadership, etc., and relation between emotional intelligence and ethics. Okay, so these are the things that we'll cover in this particular section, emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Are you emotionally intelligent? Yes, so we generally tend to check our intelligence in the form of knowledge about a particular topic, aptitude, reasoning, etc. Now, what is emotional intelligence? So in interpersonal relationship, emotional intelligence plays a very important role. In order to ensure that we are happy, emotional intelligence is important. So what is emotional intelligence? It's very simple. Okay. One, if you are able to understand and manage your emotions, if you are able to understand your emotions and manage your emotions, at the same time, understand the emotions and manage the emotions of other. Okay, with an objective of ensuring growth of self and others. That's a very simple way to put what is emotional intelligence. So we have to define, or if you have to say, self as well as others. If you are able to know about your emotions, and if you are able to regulate or manage your emotions, then you are an emotionally intelligent person. That's half of it. The other half is when you are able to understand others' emotion. Like if somebody is feeling sad, somebody is feeling angry, okay, or somebody is depressed, if you are able to understand that and also help that person, meaning manage that person, that is called as emotional intelligence. So there is intra and inter, meaning emotions of others and emotions of self is what is called as emotional intelligence. Okay. Intrapersonal intelligence and interpersonal. Is that okay? So how do we manage it, etc.? That is what gives the quality of that person, the emotional intelligence. Is that understood? So that is how we define emotional intelligence. An emotionally intelligent person, what are its characteristics? Okay, see, for example, you should be aware of yourself. Okay, your emotions, what makes you angry, what makes you happy, okay, what makes you sad, etc. Okay, and then you should be able to manage it. See, because emotion has a biological function. It tells us what we want, what we don't want. See, if you eat a chocolate, you feel happy. Okay, so that's where you pursue to eat a chocolate. You are attending this class because attending this class will help you fulfill your dream, and that's going to make you happy. So it's a biological mechanism, okay, in order to respond to our environment. Can I tell that? Okay, angry, fear is an emotion, right? We are responding to the environment through fear. Okay, so it's a biological mechanism which is there in our brain, okay, through which we respond to our environment, happiness, sadness, anger, etc. It's also very important for us to negotiate or navigate through the society, because by knowing others' emotions, we'll be able to communicate, interact with them. Okay, respond to their feeling. See, for example, empathy. How will you have, what is empathy? What is empathy? Yes? Yes, understanding others' feeling or problems, right? Or trying to know, being in somebody else's shoes and trying to know what they are feeling, empathy, right? A little bit more beyond that is compassion. Wanting to do something about it is compassion. Yes, so empathy. For example, for having that value of empathy, a civil servant to have empathy, we to have empathy, we should have emotional intelligence, because without that we will not know what the other person is going on. So if somebody is not emotionally intelligent, he'll not be able to express the ethical values like empathy, compassion, sympathy towards somebody. Yes or no? If somebody is going through a pain and they are expressing that emotion, if I understand that emotion, only then I can respond to them. So that is where interpersonal relationship can be established. Same way, when I have to grow, I have to be stable in my life, I have to respond to the environmental situations accurately. That I can do only through emotional intelligence, right? So that is where self-awareness, in order to remain motivated, if you are depressed, sad, right, so you will not be motivated to do a lot of things that is expected out of you, right? Empathy towards other person, compassion, sympathy towards other. Social skills, that is like communication. You can communicate. You might have seen somebody who is not able to understand an emotion, you don't want to interact with them, correct? No, somebody who can understand you, you use a particular tone, the other person starts shaking, then you like reduce your tone. You can only do that because you can understand. Now you feel sleepy, now I understand your emotion, then I have to crack a joke. So then only I will be able to come up with social skills. How do we develop that? Leadership skills, oratory skills, social influence ke liye, don't you think emotional intelligence is important, right? So all of that. Self regulation, that means we undergo a lot of stress in our life, or we have to respond differently in different situation. We can do that if we are able to regulate. Regulate means when we need to ensure there is a stability in our life. Ups and downs are part of our life. So if when there is ups and downs, if we are emotionally intelligent, we will be able to have a stability. That can happen only when you are able to regulate our emotions. Do you agree? Suddenly something good happens, go jump out of the sun with happiness. Or when something sad happens, go and get into the room and start crying. So there is two extreme form. Extreme happiness also is bad, extreme sadness. So you need to ensure that there is stability. This can happen when you are able to regulate the emotions. That will happen if you are emotionally intelligent. See, it's a very simple topic. Just a few headings you have to remember. And then there are a lot of keywords or points that you have to inculcate in your answers. By seeing the questions, you will understand it's a very easy topic, but difficult to write, because you'll have to list out the points. That's all. But otherwise, that's all. Emotional intelligence is when you know, when you can manage your own emotions and emotions of other for the growth, is called as emotional intelligence. Some of the characteristic of high emotion, this is again very generic. It's not very specific, like you have to write it like this only. It's nothing like that. Okay, if you are able to manage your emotion, understand your emotion, moderate it, overcome emotional obstacles like sadness, fear, depression, anxiety, too much of elated excitement, etc. Handle conflicts constructively. Just because you have some problem, don't go and beat them up, right? Constructively, if you have to solve any kind of crisis issues between individuals, you will be able to do it if they're emotionally intelligent. You will have more friends, you will be a good leader, you will be respected, okay, you will be liked by others if you have a good emotion, or if you have high emotional intelligence. Okay, and you will be depersonalizing others emotions from yours. Today that's the problem. Somebody is feeling sad, you will also start feeling sad, correct? No, so others emotions should be, an emotionally intelligent person will depersonalize others emotion from self, will not get worried because others. So now you might have seen, especially in KPSC, exam get postponed, somebody starts getting panicky, everybody else starts getting panicky. So that is lack of emotional intelligence. If you are confident saying that no matter what, I know what's the path, etc., then it is fine. So that is depersonalizing from others emotion. That's also quality of emotional intelligence. Deal with uncertainties, challenges. Again, KPSC, it can keep getting postponed, this. So if you are able to handle those uncertainty, change, etc., and be able to bring others into your vision, lead them, etc. And also manage difficult people. There are people who are not able to control their emotions. If you are an emotionally intelligent person, you can bring them also on board and ensure that they also are brought into your vision. Okay, so these are some of the characteristic of high emotional intelligent person. But other than that, you should also be aware an emotionally intelligent person will be able to understand the basic mechanism of emotions. See, emotions is a reflex by our body. It's a defense mechanism, emotions. See, for example, when you see a tiger, okay, what will you respond? You will have fear and you will run away. The fear is going to help you to survive. So emotion is that. Emotion is reflect. If you talk about the biology of it, there's a organ in our brain, amygdala, which is responsible for emotions. Okay, that is instant. As soon as you see something, you get angry, you get sad, you get happy. It is instant response. But if you give some time and think about it, okay, and when your frontal cortex starts thinking about it, then emotional thinking comes down. So when you start thinking more about it, okay, so this is basically an emotional intelligent person knows how this works and therefore is able to manage those emotions. So whenever something happens to you guys, if you are reacting, okay, that means you are not able to control your emotions. If you think about it, take a step back and then decide what to do. So that means you are able to manage your emotions. You might say, no, I'm a very angry person. I'm an angry young man, that this. So that means you know your emotions, but you're not able to manage it. So emotional intelligence deals with both of them. Plus it also deals with others' emotions also, right? So emotional intelligence is important because it's a biological purpose. So it is essential that if you are able to control your emotions, whatever these things, you will have a good physical, mental, and even spiritual health will be maintained. Social well-being is maintained, right? So this is what we will be discussing later, like self. Emotional intelligence has two parts: self, okay, that means knowing yourself better, and social, that means knowing others' emotions better. Okay, so that's the mixed emotional intelligence model, it's called. Okay, we'll come to that later. So we'll just write down. So did you understand what is emotional intelligence? Characteristics of emotionally intelligent person. Okay, just people with high emotional intelligence, what are their nature like, and what are the people with low emotional intelligence? So generally people with high EI, okay, they will be happy, they will be able to communicate with others, will be a team player, okay, will be more efficient, more productive, etc. A person who is low EI, okay, will not be able to fully fulfill his objectives, his or her objective, will be sad, depressed. That's what, in extreme cases, we may end up committing even the suicide. So like that. So that is what is. So next paragraph, people with high EI. Again, these are very generic. There's no very specific things. It's very generic. Okay, person with high EI. What is emotional intelligence? Introduction. What is emotional characters? What is emotions? Why it is important? I mean, generally, who is having high emotional intelligence? What is their nature? And what is otherwise? Now, to measure emotional intelligence, we have various models. So psychologists have come up with models to bring or quantify something which is very subjective. So we have to understand that emotion is very subjective. How do you quantify happiness? Okay, to what degree? See, if you talk about intelligence, you can measure it by giving a mathematical problem. So for every level of maturity, you have different levels of intelligence that is measured. So a class 5 student, he can calculate these kind of problems. Class 6, on an average, this we can say that yes, class 5 majority of people can solve multiplication up to this number. But here emotional intelligence is very subjective because it is difficult to quantify emotions, but still efforts are made by psychologists in order to measure emotional intelligence. So that is called as emotional quotient. But anyways, that is not important for us, but at least being aware of the different components or different aspects of this model will help us to write good answers. All right, so one such model we will take, it is called as mixed emotional intelligence model, where they try to assess people's self-recognition and social awareness. Then it also measures the self-management. That means how do they overcome their emotions, setbacks, negatives, and how they are able to understand other people's emotion and manage it, social skills. So there are different parameters under each of them, which is measured. Okay, so for example, if you go online and if you just type mixed EI model, you will get, what do you say, like a questionnaire which you have to answer, and each question they try and understand your emotions through this question. Now let's say like there is a dog, okay, which is now whatever, like is stuck in the something. Would you go and help? That means it is trying to check whether you have sympathy or empathy, something like that. Like that, various kinds of questions. So you can just Google it up, you will find it. And there are series of questions. It takes about half an hour, 1 hour. You go on answering it. There will be different options. Okay, so by the way you answer it, they try to give a score 1 to 100. How much is your emotional quotient? Okay, so that is not important for us because it's not psychology, but from an ethical point of view, we will be able to list out these parameters which can be used for us to write good answers. Anyways, now coming back, emotional quotient is measured by what is called as mixed EI model, where they measure 4 parameters. The 4 parameters are self-awareness, self-management, social skills, and social awareness. So self-awareness may they measure the ability to recognize, understand your moods and emotions and what makes you that emotional. Happiness. What makes you happy? So the question will say that you find chocolate, how will you react? Something like that. Happy, okay, not happy, like that. Okay, so that is knowing about your mood, what makes you happy or sad, etc., being aware of it. Self-management, ability to control, redirect, okay, regulate your emotions. Okay, what is making you happy? What is making you sad? Sad, can you control it, etc. So control or redirect disruptive impulse and moods, the propensity to suspend judgment, to think before acting. As I told you, brain responds in 2 ways. One, immediate response, which is emotion. You think about it and then respond. That is your cortex, your frontal cortex, which thinks. So there, when you think, your emotional intelligence is higher. Okay, as soon as you see somebody hitting, go and start hitting them also, that is emotional. Is that okay? But if you think what is happening, is it really right? Should I go and react, like that? So that is self-management. Social awareness, when I can understand your emotions, you can understand mine. Ability to understand emotional makeup of other people. Skill in treating people according to their emotional reactions. Okay, that is empathy. Social skill, proficiency in managing relationship, building network, an ability to find common grounds and building a rapport. Communication, leadership, right? Ability to understand others' emotions, help them overcome difficulties, etc. That is the social skills. How we handle relation. So mixed EI model gives you those kind of questions. Anyway, so these are not important in the sense that the questions, etc., are not important. What is important is the various components of these 4 parameters. The 4 parameters are, first one, self-awareness. Under that, you have 3, components. Emotional, self-aware. It all makes sense if you read. Like emotional self-awareness means we should be able to be aware of our emotions. Am I sad right now? Am I angry right now, etc. Accurate assessment. That means what makes me sad, what makes me angry, happy. That is assessment. And self-confidence. Then self-management, control, trustworthiness. Okay. Then consciousness, adaptability, achievement oriented, initiative. So these are all words that we can use in our answer. Okay, so somebody who is able to control their emotions, don't react to certain environmental environmental triggers. When we are able to control those, that is self-control. All right. So trustworthiness. So basically, if you have stability in your life, okay, people are able to trust you, in the sense that if you are only fluctuating with your emotions, if you're not able to control that, that's trustworthiness. Okay. Then consciousness, conscientiousness. Okay, that means you should be able to think about your emotions, understand it, and be able to make changes accordingly at your conscious level. Adaptability. Okay, whenever things happen wrong, you should be able to respond to it. When you have social pressure, when you have whatever, you adapt to it. Achievement oriented, initiative. So like this, these are all the various components of self-management. Same way, social awareness, empathy, understanding others' problems, organizational awareness, okay, service oriented, social skill, influence, leadership, developing others through understanding their problem, communication, change catalyst, okay, conflict management, building bonds, teamwork, and collaboration. We don't have to elaborate too much on this. Just be aware as to these are the various components. And you don't even have to by heart it, because it's not generally asked what are the mixed EI model. Maybe it could be, but what is important is when we answer the question. Okay, civil services, what are the emotions that one needs to possess? So a civil servant should be having the emotional intelligence, which will push towards leadership, developing others, be able to communicate with others, etc. So this is mixed EI model. Once again, I'll repeat. So according to mixed EI model, there are 4 components of, okay, or 4 parameters to judge emotional intelligence: self and social. In self, awareness, management; social, social awareness, social skills. That's all. Under that, the headings, you can just write whatever you feel like writing. Is that okay? Fine. We'll just finish this and then we'll move on to the question. Okay. Mixed EI model. See, there are various other models. If you see psychology book, like as ability EI model, trait EI model. This one is mixed EI model. So I found this to be more useful for us. Otherwise, others you can just other things are there. So this is basically model where psychologists have come up with models to evaluate emotional quotient or emotional, that is emotional intelligence, which is called as emotional quotient. Okay, so mixed EI model, give the heading mixed EI model. So that stability in your emotion, you will know that you will not act crazy, you will trust yourself, as well as, so you control your emotions in such a way that you have stability, so that you trust yourself as well as others to make the right decision and not simply react to any kind of situation. Next, have you watched this series called as Big Bang Theory? Yes, Big Bang Theory, in that Sheldon. Okay, so he doesn't have emotional intelligence. So there is this character who is very intelligent in the series, but he is not able to understand others' emotions. Okay, very intelligent person, but unable to understand other people's emotions, doesn't know how to react to others' problems and self, etc. Okay, so that is what it is. So Sheldon hates change. So if something changes, he goes mad. Okay, that's how it is. So people with low emotional intelligence don't like change. See, basically what this organization, see, you take any organization, whether a formal or informal organization, like you take your family gathering, or you take an office setup. So every organization will have structure, meaning which will consist of rules, which will consist of roles that people have to do in according to the norms and values. Norms and values. So being aware or knowledgeable about the social structure and behaving accordingly is organizational awareness. You take family as an institution, is made up of people who have to behave according to certain norms and values. They have certain roles to play. Let's say, for example, with your uncle, how do you emotionally connect, or you don't tell macha what's up, because you're not supposed to do that with your uncle. Being aware of the social structure, same way with your age or somebody lower, okay, you can interact differently. That emotion is different for that person. And how do you do that? When you are aware of the social structure. So people making an organization and how do they behave within that organization is what is called as the structure. Now that awareness is also part of emotional intelligence, that is called as organizational awareness. Same way in a formal setup also, how you interact with your seniors, how do you interact with your equal, how do you interact with your subordinates. That awareness is social awareness, meaning organizational awareness, whether formal, informal, knowing or awareness about the structure, how do you interact with that. See, these words, organizational awareness, isn't it important for leadership? Yes. So you should know how to interact, when to use that carrot and stick approach, when to punish, when to credit, and when to support, etc. Right? If you are a boss, you want to lead, you can't act like a child in front of the subordinates, however. So that awareness is called as organization. Is that clear? Others are simple. These some which requires I'm explaining. Organizational awareness. Is that okay? So these are just for understanding. If at all it is asked also, what is mixed EI model, you can write about it. Just the headings are important. The rest, it will be difficult for you to remember exactly, but you should be able to write under it. So this is what constitute an emotional intelligent person, or what is emotional intelligence. Is that understood, all of you? Now let's come to the questions relating to emotional intelligence. Is that okay? So all of you understood. So this is where or this is what is emotional intelligence. Something like this can be diagrammatically also represented. Okay, self, social, recognition, regulation. Okay, we'll just draw it. Not, you don't have to explain because we have already explained it, but at least you write a box like this. Self, and this is social, self, social, recognition, and regulation. Recognition, regulation. So self awareness, social awareness, self management, social skill. See, these words don't come to you in the exam, so therefore it becomes important. The stories will come when you write. You might have realized now, when you start writing, you have been writing the stories, you can write, but those trigger words, that becomes difficult. If you get these 4 headings, under that you can write half page and the answer is over. See, they will ask you what, 15 marks, where you have to write 2-3 pages. So if you get this heading, under that something you will write, some examples you will add, that this over. But if you don't get that heading, self what, you'll be wondering like that, and that one entire paragraph will go, or you'll waste an additional 3-4 minutes. So that's where these things help you, meaning the headings. That's all. Though we write it in our notes, you don't have to read it too much, like the self-awareness, self-management, that fine. So this is all about the emotional intelligence.